step at a time. All right. So this morning, like I said, we're talking about the Ghana Gold Board, one of the boldest economic moves we've seen this year for the country. Now, this institution is now the sole body in charge of actually weighing, valuing, and exporting gold in Ghana. A move that is raising both hope and also some hard questions. Could this be the key to ending gold smuggling? Will it attract investors or push them away? Or how will it exactly affect the thousands of small-scale miners across the country? To help us make sense of it all, we're joined this morning by Felix Larry. Dr. Felix Larry. He's an economist, and he has been following he's been following Ghana's resource policies closely, and he's going to share his thoughts with us this morning. Doc, good morning. How are you?
How about you, my brother?
Hello, Doc.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear. Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well. How about you, my brother?
Yeah, I'm doing well. Thanks so much. Good to see you again.
And good to see you too, my brother.
All right, great. So today we're going to have a conversation on GoldBod. I know we've had a conversation on that recently, probably from a different angle. Today we try to want to evaluate exactly what they are doing and whether they can really match up the kinds of expectations that we have for them and all of that. And so maybe I should start from here. Now, of course, we've seen that gold play a central role in our economy, and for decades we've seen some growth in there, but also, we've seen billions of dollars leak through some unregulated systems that we have as a country. And I remember the last time we spoke, one of the things we talked about, you gave us the breakdown of the loopholes in there that is actually making gold smuggling possible. But tell me, why do you think the government chose this particular moment in time to introduce a gold board? Was there a tipping point that made centralizing gold operations urgent or necessary?
Yes. Once again, good morning to our cherished listeners and our cherished viewers on the various social media handles. Yes, that's a very good point. The idea of gold board actually came somewhere 2015, 2016, when the then vice president, the late Emisa Atta, actually traveled to India for a bilateral kind of program between Ghana and India, and it was hosted by the Indians on the soil of India. And on the podium, when the late vice president was giving his speech, please, can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Okay. So on the podium, when the late vice president was giving his speech, he was trying to recount the good bilateral and trade relationships between Ghana and India at that time. And he made mention of the fact that as at the time he was speaking, government of Ghana has actually exported about 10 tons of gold to India at that time. And I'm referring to 2015, 2016. And so when he finished his speech, and his Indian counterpart also mounted the podium, he stated that no, it's not just 10 tons of gold, but rather 50 tons of gold. So that got the president or the government of Ghana at that time, led by the current president, John Dramani Mahama, kind of surprised that by data, official information of government, Ghana had, exported 10 tons. However, the Indian counterpart said 50 tons. So how did the extra 40, get to India? So it tells you that was the time that the government at that time realized that something good is happening beneath them. But it was not actually ignorant to the overall benefit of the country.
Right. Okay. Of course.
And so the idea of GoldBod actually came at that time. This current president and his government at that time actually impregnated themselves with the GoldBod. But unfortunately, they lost power in the 2016 elections, and then they left office somewhere January 7th, 2017. So at that time, I was thinking that the actual administration, the then NPP administration who was taking over, would have carried this kind of mantra or this particular agenda along. But they failed to do so until when they realized that the CD major currency exchange rate volatility was actually becoming a problem. Then they decided to even start the good for oil policy, which was also shredded in secrecy and high level of corruption. And so when God being so good, this government led by the same president by then, now also the returned president, got the mandate by the grace of God to come and continue what they started at that time. They decided to pay serious attention to the shock that actually engulfed them at that time. So they decided to give birth to a system that is a semblance of COCOBOD. So that is why that is how come GoldBod keeps. So look at COCOBOD, GoldBod. And apart from the spelling of cocoa and apart from the spelling of gold, the board are almost the same spelling.
Right.
So the whole thing is that the GoldBod is mimicking the structure and the system that COCOBOD has been operating over the years, for which COCOBOD has actually ensured that cocoa has benefited the nation to the highest optimal level. So that is the point. If you ask to answer your question, that is the point at which this GoldBod actually came into being.
The idea,
and it couldn't have come at any other better time than the time that the government, this current president, has had a second opportunity to have a legacy and to implement that.
I see. So does that mean now you were talking about the fact that when the Akufo-Addo led administration took office, you thought they were going to take over and that particular agenda or take up that particular initiative and run it, but it didn't happen. Is that to say that we weren't regulating our gold at the time? Because now I know GoldBod is supposed to be regulating, doing some work in there. Doesn't mean we weren't doing that. I know of PMMC. What were they doing at the time? What is the difference between PMMC and GoldBod?
Yeah, PMMC was just like a toothless bulldog. They were actually a ceremonial institution. They couldn't bite. In fact, the laws that they were supposed to be implementing, they couldn't really implement it. And the reason being that over the years, there has been serious political interference. So it was just a ceremonial institution put in place. And the gold market was highly open and it was loose to the extent that gold was leaving the country not only by flight, but just by cross-border kind of. You can just carry gold, and when you get to the border, let's say you are going to Cote d'Ivoire or Burkina Faso, when you get to the border and you pay the officials over there, you are able to go free. Until GoldBod came, and now it has been criminalized that an individual can actually export gold. The gold business has been open, and it was shredded in high level of corruption, high level of political interference, and top politicians have been benefiting from that.
I see. So how do we ensure, and this question I probably would have saved it for later, but I just want us to talk about it because we're talking about the corruption and all of those things. What factors led to PMMC getting to the point you were talking about, and how do we prevent GoldBod from also reaching that particular point? You talk about corruption, political interference, and all of that. How do we get there?
Yes, so just as you and I have actually agreed, the main problem has been political interference. And the PMMC was also established by law, and they were operating with an act to which they were supposed to implement and even apprehend or arrest people and prosecute them. But if the politicians, those who are in power, those who are supposed to ensure that the laws take their course, are the very people who are actually participating in such an illegal business. My brother, your guess is as good as mine. If a party is arrested, what do you think the government of the day would have done? Remember, in the ex-Wall administration, Anas Arimiyewa Anas did an expose People like Honorable Charles Bissiou and some, top officials of the party at that time in government were exposed. What did they do? What did the government at that time do? What did PMMC do? They couldn't have done anything because these are politicians. Even the good old professor, my uncle, Professor Frimpong Boateng, the then Minister of Environment, if I stand to be corrected, in his reports, the report is there, and I don't know if you have had access to look into the report. Top officials of the then administration were mentioned, as players of this illegal trade as far as gold is concerned, and then illegal extraction of gold in our system. What did the then administration do? What did PMMC do? They couldn't have done anything because the point of the matter is that can you go in Ghana? We are in Ghana. We are we are on the soil of Africa, on the land of Africa. Can you go after a politician such that you, the CEO in charge, will not even lose your job? And who even appointed the CEO? The CEO himself, is he a politician or not? He has been appointed by a political party because he's a member of that political party, and he's there. So you see, Ghana, we are very good at establishing laws and then establishing institutions. But when it comes to implementation, we turn around to weaken the very fabric of the institutions that we have created to protect us and our resources and our properties. And so that has been the issue.
I see. Now, still on corruption. We're going to talk about other things, but still on corruption. Just because you mentioned that. Now, the report you're talking about, I remember the report listed a certain number of people that were directly or indirectly involved in the illegal mining and all of those things. Could that be because some of these people have not been persecuted? I haven't seen any of them persecuted since the report was submitted in 2021. I haven't seen any of them persecuted. Is it because we are not chasing these people that we continue to see those issues in there?
Yes, the answer is what you've given. We have not been able to prosecute. And you see, as long as you are not able to prosecute the perpetrators of the crime, there is a high incentive. There will be a high incentive for people to continue committing the same crime. And as we have said, how dare you, as an institutional head, go after a government official? That is the problem we have. The Americans, the Western countries that we always refer to and we want to emulate, they allow systems to work. Let me give you a typical example. An ex-president then, that is Donald Trump, was he not prosecuted by the state for tax evasion?
Yeah.
That tells you this is a society that has systems and structures working. It doesn't matter who flouts the law. The law will go after the person. Until Ghana we get to that level, I'm sorry to tell you the facts. We're not going to get anywhere. So I am hoping that this administration will take that report seriously. If they indeed want to fight Galamsey and illegal trade of gold in our system, then the current administration, crime has not gotten any expiry date. Yes, the investigation and the report was actually done, and the report prepared in 2021. At that time, it was the actual administration in office.
Yeah.
But crime that hasn't gotten any expiry date. So I'm gonna actually be very, very happy with this administration if they take up that particular report and go after these individuals. When we are able to do that, then we will say that, okay, the nation is now on the path of true reset agenda. Otherwise, the reset agenda, I beg to differ, is actually on the surface, not at the bottom of the soup. Again, I will also be happy. Let us also not hide our heads in the soil or in the dust like ostriches. The current administration also has some of its members also engaged in same crime that I am actually calling on the government to go after the then administration or officials who were actually implicated in the report. Same is being done under this administration by its own officials. The president has done some before, and I'm referring to his own friend Abu Gapeli. When he flouted the law, the president ensured that he was prosecuted.
Yeah.
Can same be done in his current administration, where he's seeking to reset Ghana as his legacy term? If he's able to do so by going after his own people, and I have to commend him. Recently, you heard in the news, I think I even heard it on your network, that Honorable Yamin and one other NDC chairman have been implicated and they are being investigated. That is a good call. When you do that, then Ghanaians know that even your own home, you are doing, home cleaning. So whenever you pick the Frimpong Boateng's, reports, and then you seek to pursue the officials of the old administration who were also perpetrating same crime, then the ordinary Ghanaian will know that this government is serious about the reset agenda, and therefore they are also playing it fairly, across all boards. So I think your question about whether we are facing this because we have never prosecuted, the answer is a big yes, because we have not been able to bite even our own people to serve as a deterrent to others who are sitting on the bench hoping to commit same crime. We're not going to get anywhere, my brother.
I see. Well, so we hope that something is done about it. And I know the Attorney General a few months back or so ordered the EOCO to investigate the reports, the persons and the entities that were implicated in there. And I hope that something is done and we get to see something as soon as possible, because if not, we are going to continue to see corruption bedevil that sector. All right, let's come back to the conversation proper. And of course, we're talking about gold. If you just tune in, this is Business Breakfast on Z 101.9 FM with me, Nitra B. Hammond. And this is our roundtable discussion. This morning, we're talking to Dr. Felix Larry. He is an economist and he's helping us understand what exactly the GoldBod is doing. We're trying to evaluate the performance of the GoldBod on the Ghanaian economy. And we've just started a conversation. You can share the link. We're streaming live on Facebook at ZFMGH and also on YouTube at Z Multimedia. Please do well to engage our posts, and then we'll read your comments for you. You can send me a WhatsApp on 0544321019, 0544321019. You can as well call me on 03039566641. 03039566641. Share your thoughts with us, and let's make sense of whatever we are talking about this morning. Doc, let me come back to you now. We know the impact of gold, and so I won't let us spend too much time there. But Ghana is Africa's top gold producer, with the sector contributing significantly to GDP, foreign exchange, and employment. But the thing is that the numbers often vary depending on who you ask. From an economic perspective, how significant is gold to Ghana's economy in both formal and informal terms? And if you can, what are the hidden or underestimated parts of that story?
Okay, so I didn't get the second part of your question, but let me tackle the first one, then you come back to the second part of the question.
Sure.
The impact of gold, you don't need even economics to talk about it. You can ask any other ordinary person on the street who understands basic life economics, because we are all economists by nature. Once you operate your either your family budget or your personal budget to ensure that whatever you get as an income, in this case is a resource, whatever natural resource you have, whether be it land or maybe some inherited cuckoo farm, or all these things are resources that are are your possession. Once as an individual, as a family, you are able to ensure that there is a benefit that I'm going to get, or we as a family, we are going to get as a result of managing these resources that we have at our disposal very well, then you don't need book economics. Everybody knows that if I have a natural resource and I manage it, it's going to inure to my benefit.
Absolutely.
And so gold, as you rightly said, contributes significantly. In fact, if we had, over the years, if we had done what we are doing now, you would have seen that gold would have been the leading, even more than oil. Yes, gold would have been the leading. Cocoa, cocoa, basically depend 90% on nature because we don't have strong irrigation systems in the country. And so if nature doesn't favor us in a particular year, we don't get the right, productivity or output for us to send it out there for foreign exchange and all of that. But gold, once extracted, and if the nation has quote unquote sense, business sense, and they tend to add value to it, it contributes significantly. And these are the ways it contributes. It makes us get a positive trade balance. If I say trade balance, that is the difference between your export earnings and your cost of import. And so when your export earnings exceed how much you are spending to import, we say you have a positive trade, or we say you have trade surplus. The other way around is trade deficit. So once gold is managed very well, we're gonna get trade surplus. In other words, we're gonna get more earnings in our export than how much we actually import, or the amount we spend to import the basic goods and services that we need. That is number one. Number two, when there is a trade surplus, it means that there is heavy inflows of what? Foreign exchange. That is forex into the economy.
Yeah.
And that helps stabilize your local currency. And that is what we are seeing in the economy now, such that as at early January, dollar was around 17 cedis, pounds was around 21, and I think euro was around 19. I stand to be corrected. Now you could see that all of them have been significantly reduced. In other words, the cedi has appreciated significantly against these major currencies, such that dollar is now around 10.4. Pounds is around, I think, if not 14 point something, it will be 13 point something. And then euro is around 12 or 11 point something.
Yeah.
That is very good, and that is helping the economy. And that has also contributed significantly to the downward trend we have been enjoying when it comes to inflation. You understand? So the benefits are there. Then GDP growth, when gold, is well managed in terms of its trade, and we add value, which I am hoping that this government will do before maybe they leave office in future. What it means is that there's going to be heavy growth in terms of our GDP.
Right.
And then this will also lead to the government getting more revenue to undertake key capital and consumption expenditures within the country. So it's very, very key. Revenue mobilization, gold can contribute. And let me tell you, this government, you can ask the finance minister if you have the opportunity, you can grant one-on-one interview with him. Most of the heavy expenditures that they have done, which he reported in the mid-year budget review statement, were as a result of the GoldBod.
Yeah.
And perhaps maybe the little disbursement made by the IF since they assumed office.
True.
Otherwise, if it is any other source, it is highly insignificant. You understand? Because if you look at the whole they came to meet, to the extent that even money to get crude to power our power generation plant was a problem, you heard the government immediately having an emergency discussion with Tinubu, if I'm right, the president of Nigeria. To see to it that we are provided with some crude in the interim to be able to power our plant to generate enough energy or electricity. Otherwise, we would have been plunging to do so and all of that. So there wasn't any fiscal space for the government at that time. So the smartest thing they did was the GoldBod, which has ensured that the gold trade has been well managed, and we have been able to accumulate or consolidate enough revenue to be able to allow the government enough fiscal space to undertake the expenditure that they have been, the finance minister reported to us in the mid-year budget review that he recently read on the floor of Parliament. So revenue mobilization is very key. Now, when we are also able to manage the gold side, the gold business very well, we create employment, both direct and indirect employment. And because of time, I wouldn't want to go into that. You understand? Because once you regularize it, we are able to track and ensure that businesses around GoldBod are done in a transparent manner. Job opportunities are created. And when these people get the opportunity to work, in places where these businesses are going, be it extraction, be it the trade or what have you, other people, other vendors will also go and trade over there. And that is what I term as indirect, employment and all of
right.
that, or job creation. So the benefit associated or surrounding gold management, if done well in terms of the management, are so enormous that you cannot even quantify. And the key amongst them is to be able to allow the government to consolidate enough revenue to take care of the basic needs of the state.
I see. Right. Okay. So the second part of my question will probably have to we'll leave that because I think you've highlighted some of the things that I'd wanted you to talk about. Now let's talk about the smuggling, and I know we've spoken briefly about corruption and all of that. Now it's estimated that Ghana loses over $2 billion annually through gold smuggling, and of course, GoldBod is supposed to address this, but like you mentioned, corruption and loopholes still have deep roots. In your view, how effective can the GoldBod be in stopping gold smuggling and informal trading? And what systems you think must be in place? Even though we've seen some good, the clamp down. I from my checks, I know that they've been able to engage in 17 busts and all of that, recovering some gold for the country, making some money. But the loopholes are still there. What are the effective ways or the systems that must be put in place for GoldBod to be effective in stopping gold smuggling?
Okay, so first of all, we need to seriously criminalize, illicit gold trade or gold business, like the way we have done when it comes to hardcore drugs. So if you look at NACOC, for example, if someone is apprehended of possessing some sort of hardcore drug like cocaine or marijuana or any other thing, sometimes the jail sentences are so heavy that it is no longer attractive for people to even engage in such business, except those hardcore criminals who are risk takers and they don't care what happens. But even them, once one is arrested, the example that is set deters everybody to want to undertake such a business. So the first thing GoldBod ought to do, and that is why the last time I spoke about that promise they've given, that if you report an illegal gold trade, you'll be given 10% of the gold value or the cash value of it.
Yeah.
That one is just about 10%, 20% work done. The first thing they should do, and it is good that GoldBod already has a legal backing, they have to go and then enact a law to make it a heavy criminal venture, such that when you are arrested, sometimes even things like a high number of prison term in terms of years are actually applied against you. And if possibly, if we can talk of life sentence. Because you see, anybody who undertakes such a black market business is a treason. I mean, the person is committing treason. I beg your pardon. You understand? It's treason for the person to engage, because when you do that, you are denying the 33 million Ghanaians of the collective benefit that we all have to enjoy. Because you have a car, my brother. If there are good roads, for example, from your residence to your workplace, if we have enough resources and we want to be luxurious and we construct 2-lane roads, even intercity and then intercity, don't you think traffic in Accra will be relieved? Don't you think you will save fuel?
Most definitely.
You understand? So that the benefit, of course, when the gold is sold, they are not going to share the money for you to get your booty and put in your pocket. But the benefit, the indirect benefit, if government is able to spend the resources, the money or the revenue generated from the gold business very well, the benefit you and I are going to get is so huge. Another benefit is that even your business owner is going to have high revenue, in the sense that you'll be able to come to work early enough and you are not going to be stressed out in traffic. So the energy is there, your productivity will be very high, and therefore, the collective productivity of the business entity is going to be high, and therefore high revenue is going to be generated. And when the business also gets high revenue, it's cyclical. Government is able to tax the business to get more revenue to do other things. So the first thing they need to do is to enact laws that highly criminalizes the trade. Then GoldBod, I don't know if they are doing that because the few documents I've read about GoldBod, I have not come across that. I've not finished. I will not pretend to say that I know everything about Gold because I've not finished consuming the documents surrounding it. But the few that I've read, the small portions that I've read, I've not come across this one. They need to also have absolute control of the reporting and classification of gold. The assaying, if I say the assaying, is about the value, it's about the purification and the pricing and everything. You understand?
Yeah, I think they do according to the act that was passed in the bill that was passed in March this year. Yeah, I think it's in there.
Yes, on paper by law, I'm sure that should be part of their mandate.
Yeah.
But on the ground, like I always say, we are good in enacting laws, but when it comes to implementation, we tend to soften our arms for the big guys and then rather go after the small, the mosquitoes, you understand, to pretend to prove to the people that the laws are working. And that is the problem I've been having with government after government, not only this government. You understand?
Yeah.
Government after government are quick to apply the law to the fullest, to the mosquitoes, the small, flouters of the law. If there is a word called flouters, these people are, you see that the state is going fully after them. But when it comes to amongst them, the bourgeoisies at the top there, they tend to soften their hands. So, yes, on paper it is there, but they need to practicalize it. And they have to make the modus operandi very, very transparent, such that there will be, citizen participation. So the underreporting has to be curtailed. The misclassification ought to be curtailed. Very, very key. Then we can also talk about the cross-border trafficking. I think at the moment, GoldBod is at the inception phase. And so they don't have the full system in place. Like I told you the last time, even recruitment are still being done. I'm sure by this time it's quite far advanced. But even if they complete the recruitment, people who have been recruited are the people who are going to put the full system in place. So in the interim, maybe GoldBod can have a strong collaborative kind of engagement with NACOC, to be able to tap into the sophisticated tracking systems of NACOC, to be able to, go after these criminals who undertake this illicit and black market businesses when it comes to gold, especially cross-border trafficking activities. If they are able to use the sophisticated system, the existing systems of NACOC to help them in the interim, I bet you, my brother, we're going to get the benefit we are going to get, if not tripled, it's going to be double,
Yeah.
So that ought to be curtailed. Then GoldBod should have a strong teeth to bite. When it comes to collusion, they should make sure that I just made mention of, the state going after the small flouters of the law, and when it comes to amongst themselves, they soften their arms. That collusion ought to stop. That network that they have built. Oh, this guy is our political party sponsor. When we were in campaign, he was helping us, in financing our campaign. And so, yes, he has broken the law, but let's find a way to make sure that we soften the grounds for him. Let's just make him pay something small, and then, we allow the person to go. That is very, very bad. As a nation, I have proposed on other sister networks that even when it comes to normal corruption, we have to have, a dual prosecutorial process. What do I mean by that? Dual prosecutorial process, I mean to say, the state ought to go after the perpetrators of the crime by pursuing criminal charges, going for criminal charges against the person, go pursue full criminal prosecution against the person. And then we also go civil. The civil is about to recover the loot the person has actually made out of that corrupt act. When we do that, we see that it's like you have stolen meat in the soup. From when we were growing up, we go and steal a chicken or something like that from the soup. When you are apprehended by your mother or your father, the chicken is taken away from you if you have not already consumed it, and you are beaten on top of that. So the beating is the criminal prosecution. The civil is the recovering of the chicken if you have not already consumed it. That is what we need to do as a state or as a nation. So that collusion that we have when it comes to the bourgeoisie, the government officials, the politicians, the top businessmen who finance these political parties behind the scene, we need to stop it. Because you see, in terms of weight of the crime, the small boys who are apprehended, their results of or the product of their crime is not that significant as compared to these big people that we tend to soften our hands when we have to go after them. So that collusion ought to stop. Another
right.
side of the collusion is this security agents. You know, the task force that have been put in place.
Yeah.
Who watches the watchman? When they get the gold, how do we even confirm that what they are reporting is the true quantities that they actually collected or recovered? We need to know that. You understand? Because we don't want a situation whereby, let's say, 50 tons are recovered and then they are reporting 40 or 30. And then the remaining is going into individual pockets and what have you. That in itself ought to stop.
But how do you think,
as a nation, work for this nation with a plain heart, with clean hands, and ensure, because you see, when all these benefits comes into the hands of government, and we have a government that is also sensible enough to apply these resources, it is to the collective benefit of all. After all, when you are able to steal from the state and you build mansions, and the road leading to your mansion is not good, if armed robbers are attacking you and you call the security agencies, and even if they will come, because the roads are not good, by the time they come, either yourself or your family member has been killed, and whatever to be taken away has been taken away. But if you don't do that and the resources come to the state, and the state is able to use the resources to give you a good road that leads you to your house, whenever you are in danger, the government or the security officials are able to get there in time. When there is a health crisis, the ambulance are able to get there in time. When somebody is to put to bed, the person is able to, we are able to take the person to the hospital in time. If it is food transport from the hinterland to the cities, because roads are good, rails are working, aquatic transportation systems are working effectively, we're able to get the food commodities in time to the market, such that they don't get spoiled for us to have scarcity in the cities for food commodities. So that collusion ought to stop. Then the last I will say when it comes to this, because of time, is weak enforcement. The GoldBod should ensure that the enforcement of the law is very strong, and that is why I started by talking about enacting laws that seriously criminalizes that black market activities, like the way drug issues are handled by any country, including Ghana. When you are apprehended to be found or to have engaged in illicit or black market gold business activity, the punishment should be so severe that it will deter you and I, who are also sitting on the benches watching, such that we will not have the incentive. After our analysis, we will not think that the incentives of committing the crime is heavier than you playing it safe. And that is the problem this country we have been having. The good people suffer whilst bad people enjoy, because the incentive of doing the wrong thing in this country is so brighter and so juicy than the incentive to do the right thing. So that is what I would say in terms of what GoldBod ought to do to ensure that they sanitize the gold business market.
Right, great. Just to double click on what you said about the task force, I am curious as to how we can do that, how we can make sure that they are reporting exactly what they are getting from bust and all the engagements that they undertake. What do you think can be done specifically to help make sure that they are reporting the right thing?
It's a difficult thing. I will not pretend to be a security expert, so the views I will share may be from from layman's point of view. But the point of the matter is that I will suggest maybe a 3 or 2-step approach. Field officials, and then when these field officials report, there should be an independent body, highly independent. If I say an independent body, a body whose leadership is not appointed by the politicians. You understand?
Yeah.
To also supervise the activities of the task force. and even them who also watches them. So the whole thing is a complicated thing. But I think the safest place is we having people with high moral backgrounds to man the affairs of this particular, system.
Right.
If we have people who have, a dent or an iota of corruption in their heart, the fight, it will not be 100%. Maybe we can achieve 70% of it. But the Ghanaian I know, which I am also part of it, our attitude and our greed, I don't think there is any sophistication or whatever sophisticated system, be it technology or whatever, that we can use to even monitor whether these task force are also reporting the true value of gold that have been recovered from the criminals. So it's a big thing unless we have people who are sincere, and those people sometimes we even maltreat them. That is why I earlier when I said in this country, good people suffer, bad people enjoy.
Right. Okay, Doc. Let's talk about investor confidence. Some investors are excited about a more structured gold sector, like we're saying with GoldBod, but others are also wary of the increased bureaucracies and the state's control. From a foreign investment point of view, does the creation of GoldBod make gold sector more attractive or more complicated in your view?
Okay, so let me start from the people who are complaining of long bureaucracy. The gold itself, where do they extract it before you get the gold? It's not difficult to get it.
Absolutely, it is.
You and I cannot just step, we cannot stand in front of our houses and all of a sudden we'll be picking gold from the ground. You need sophisticated systems this time to go beneath the ground to be able to extract it. So the extraction of the gold itself is not easy. It's full of bureaucracies by nature. And you see, let me use this local balance. For you to get a good woman, you and I, we are men. We know that it's not easy. Is it easy? It's not easy. So this issue of bureaucracies and what have you, sometimes I really don't get it. We are trying to put systems in place to make it difficult for criminals to benefit from the trade, from the black market. So the bureaucracies ought to be there. I beg to differ. We need to be serious for once in this country. Why do we want everything easy like that? We are talking about natural resource, and you see, no economy has ever developed, especially on the continent of Africa, if they fail to take absolute control of their natural resources. Because look at the inventions and the technologies that are being built around the world. Does Ghana have the capacity to do the same? We don't. So the only thing that can also help us develop our nation is this natural resource that we have, these natural resources that we have at our disposal. We have failed as a nation since independence to take full advantage of these resources that God has blessed us, to the level that we are now poor as a state. You understand?
Yeah.
So if something is being put in place to make it difficult for people to trade, it's a good thing. Now let me come to the positive side. The people who are happy, I clap for them. Do you know why? Because when good systems are in place, we tend to have transparency in doing business. And Ghanaian, the ordinary Ghanaian or the normal Ghanaian is afraid of transparency. Talk of our procurement. Everything is shredded in secrecy, backdoor arrangement. And it's like they hand over projects and contracts to people who are not even incompetent in the first place to handle the project. You understand?
Yeah.
And that is what the ordinary Ghanaian wants. He wants, if he's in charge of something, he wants absolute power to decide who to benefit and who not to benefit. That is selfish. That is criminal. So the people who are clapping for the government, I back them to clap, because you see, true investors who want a fair play will now get a fair price. That is the first point, and that is why they are happy. Fair price. The price that is announced, and then in the world market, I told you the last time that there are trade regulations. If your natural resource, you see, trade politics is also there. Trade politics at the global market is also there. If you look at our cocoa sector, now they are saying that if you take your beans to the world market, they will do some laboratory tests. If they see that chemical components are in it, they're not going to buy. It's not a trade politics. The same people, they are saying that if they investigate and they realize that you engage children in the production of the cocoa, that is child labor, and so they're not going to buy your cocoa. That is so. If we try to streamline and then legalize the system to the level that there is a fair playing ground for every investor at the global market, we can even get premium prices. We can then go and fight that. Look, we are doing, a legal kind of gold business. The government is treating investors fairly. There is a fair price. There is transparency. You understand? Government is able to engage in key investors in the sector and ensure that continuous engagement brings, a mutual understanding, a mutual playing field for all. And so as a result of that, I think we deserve better. We can have that muscle, especially when we are one of the leading gold producers in the world.
All right.
We can, if we do things right, and GoldBod is able to stand on its feet, we can even determine the world price of gold, just as the Arabians are doing in the world when it comes to crude oil markets. So we need to be civil and serious as a nation. That absolute control, when I am at the helm of affairs, allow me to use my position to decide who benefits and who does not benefit. I think GoldBod, and I am happy so far the way they are going, is going to help. So the investors are happy because that black market, brings speculation, and speculation brings unnecessary price determination, because somebody can just decide to hold, the whole gold and create an artificial scarcity in the system just to shoot up the price. You understand?
Yeah.
To benefit themselves. But once the government has stepped in and trying to regularize the system, centralize the system, make everything transparent, and then set a fair price for everybody, then there is competition.
Right.
You understand?
Yeah.
And when there is competition from the investors who are willing to buy from government can then thrive on that competition to get a fair, very well competitive price or deal for the country. So it's a good call.
I see. Let's. Our time is almost up, and so we'll try and wrap up very soon. But of course, let's talk about the governance and accountability. Who exactly watches a GoldBod? Now, the GoldBod controls billions of dollars in less than 6 months. Okay, we're in the 8th month. In about 6 months into the year, or since its inception, or a few months since its inception, we've seen a lot of money, a lot of gold bust, a lot of all kinds of things. So we see that they control billions of dollars in national wealth today. But who exactly is monitoring its operations? How important is transparency and public accountability in making the GoldBod work? And maybe what kinds of mechanisms should we put in place to ensure that it doesn't become just another bloated bureaucracy? I mean, you talked about PMMC earlier. How do we ensure, more specifically, that it doesn't become like any of those ones?
Okay, so already, if I am right, over the years, the gold business has been supervised by the Central Bank of Ghana. So I will advise that the Central Bank of Ghana recently, I am sorry to put it across that. Sorry, you wanted to say something?
No, I was going to say that actually, I think for now it's under the Finance Ministry.
Yes, I'm coming there.
Okay.
Coming there. Yes. So over the years, it has been under the supervision of the Central Bank of Ghana, and we have not been able to manage it well. And now, this government, in its wisdom, feels like the finance minister or the finance ministry has to supervise that. I 50% agree with the government, 50% disagree. The reason being that the 50% I agree is on the ground that now we have a very disciplined, humble, less greedy finance minister who also has the backing of the president.
Did you say less greedy?
Yes, I would say less because he's a human being. I will not say not greedy.
Okay.
Yeah, he's a human being. I'm trying to,
right,
use sociology here. The moment I say purely no, or he has no greed in him, I may exaggerate.
All right, you
so
can go on.
Say less greedy.
All right, you can go on.
Because he's a human being. We don't need to run away from that fact. So since we have such a disciplined finance minister who also has the backing of the president, you see that we are seeing some positive signals.
True.
Now my disagreement comes in future where maybe this government or this finance minister is no more in office, and we get an unscrupulous groups of persons who come and then take over the affairs of managing this particular key sector. then we will go back to the, it's going to be a zero-sum game.
Mm.
So what I would rather advise, in my humble opinion, is that there should be a bilateral kind of supervisory effort. And then here I'm calling for an intercourse or collaboration between the Bank of Ghana and the Finance Ministry. You understand? Or we can even have a tripartite kind of system where there's another, independent body set in place. I am looking for a system where everything about GoldBod will be made very difficult for individuals to take advantage of the system. That is what I am calling for.
Mm.
If we make a mistake to make any aspect of the chain very loose, that is where we are going to have our weak points. And that is where we are going to lose big time. Because you see, politicians are politicians. Government officials are politicians before they become government officials. So they don't most of the time have the nations at heart for what we have seen over the past 10 years. You understand? They don't always have the nations at heart. Even now, look at your parliament. Party first before the constituency, who voted for them, which is very, very disappointing and very bad. You understand?
Yeah.
So the same way, if we allow any aspect of the gold business chain or the gold market chain, we allow it to be very weak. That is going to be our weak spot where people will actually explore that or exploit that against us. So we need to be very, very careful. So I will say that, in my humble opinion, that supervision, which is solely placed under the authority of Finance Ministry, is actually not the way to go. The point is that, you see, when we are taking the decision, we should also look at we should be very, very futuristic. We should look at the future. If I am no more there, the system that I'm putting there, is it going to still protect the interest of the state? That is what we should look at. Because now, I think the president and his government feels like we have a disciplined finance minister, he will do the right thing. But he's not going to be there for the rest of his life. He's not going to be there forever. One day he will leave. What if somebody comes and he's corrupt, like we had in the previous administration, where the direct cousin of the president, and I need to state it, emphatically.
Doc,
a direct cousin of the president was the finance minister. We saw the pain we went through, and even now we are having bit of the consequence of that act. So we need to be very careful. I am proposing that there should be a tripartite body, Finance Ministry, Bank of Ghana, and then another independent body that the politicians will not have any shred of authority to even appoint the leadership to actually supervise this particular venture.
Okay, Doc. So let's try and wrap up now. So of course, it's one thing to create an institution. It's another thing to define what exactly success looks like and actually measure it. If we fast forward, say 4 years from now, let's say the government has some 3 years more. 3 years from now, what indicators or signs would tell you that the GoldBod has been a success for Ghana? And just before you come to that, I wanted to touch on what you were talking about earlier, that what kinds of systems, because if it is going to be, say, because of this finance minister, let's keep it under finance ministry, then another person comes who is good under, say, lands ministry, and we say, okay, then let's move it to lands ministry. Then somebody comes and the person is in environment, science and technology and all of those things, let's move it there. We'll probably be basing on individuals, isn't it? What kinds of systems should we put in place so that we don't have to be looking at the individual in office in a particular ministry to keep the GoldBod under? Before you come to my last question.
This is a very, very, very intelligent question, my brother.
Thank you.
And thank you for that. You see, we have been prostitutes. Government after government, I beg your pardon, have been prostituting when it comes to making policy decisions. For this one, everything ought to be backed by law. That even the president doesn't have the power to overnight take decisions that you are, of this kind, that you just alluded to or you just outlined. Everything ought to be, backed by law. The legality should be so complex that the incentive to even take a decision to move the supervision under this body or that body is not even there. And here I'm calling for, as for the two arms of government, they work together all the time against the interests of the nation. I mean, the executive and then the legislative. And recently, we also even had the judiciary supporting the whole thing. If these three arms of government can work independently and each seeking to do things or enact policies and programs that will near to the common good of the state, then we can do that. So the answer to your question is that law, everything legal. That is the only means with which we can deter the politicians to do whatever they want. But if we don't back it by law and we leave it loose that the current president feels like the finance minister is the best person to handle this, so I'm putting it under him. Another president comes, like you rightly said, we say that the natural resource person is my serious political ally. So let me tell the citizenry that he's the best person to supervise it. So let me put it under his ministry. Then you will see that there is going to be this sort of collusion, as I just alluded to earlier on, to do whatever they want. So here the answer is the legality should be so tight and strong that no one arm of government can just unilaterally get up and then that's whatever it likes.
All right. Anyway, so my final question to you, I was asking that if we fast forward, say 3 years from now, what indicators or signs will tell you that a GoldBod has been a success for Ghana? Okay. So first of all the failures of GoldBod should be the better version of GoldBod. I told the GoldBod and GoldBod is the semblance, which is actually established through the semblance to be a semblance of the GoldBod. So GoldBod, yes, it has done well. Nobody can say that GoldBod has not done well. But the mistakes over the years is that it allowed politicians to interfere. GoldBod ought to learn from that. I'm looking for a GoldBod that in the next 3 years, there's no political interference. That would be a good indicator. Number two, I'm looking for a GoldBod where even its officials are well supervised such that they will not underreport whatever they recover from the criminals. That is also a good indicator. I'm looking for a GoldBod that has been able to put strong systems in place such that there is a fair playing ground. The reporting of prices and everything favors investors who want to do genuine business with the country. I'm looking for a GoldBod that is futuristic in such a way that we are not going to export raw gold, but we are going to, add value, serious value to the gold that we export. And last time I told you their intention of establishing the Ghana, the Dubai version of gold suit, gold souk, yes, which is the Ghana Gold Village. Looking forward to that, and that one should be an opportunity for rent seeking. If I say rent seeking, a situation whereby only the politicians will go and secure contract and do whatever they want to do, but a system where the private sector is allowed to operate fairly and they report everything fairly and pay the required taxes and report the right revenue to the state. That is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a GoldBod where they have a strong, sophisticated system to trace, gold coming from illegal mining or illicit mining, and then they are able to, arrest the perpetrators, recover them, and then they are actually prosecuted. And as I earlier said, I'm looking for a GoldBod that seriously criminalizes, black market activity. Black market activities like the way NACOC has been established to do. That when you are apprehended to have possessed, illicit drug, like, cocaine and all of that, the jail sentence, the prosecution is so heavy, such that today, if your family members hear that you have engaged in such a business and then you have been arrested, even your mother will cry as if, excuse my language, you are dead. That is the system I'm looking for. Right. Finally, I'm looking for a GoldBod that will help us get 99.999%, if not 100%, of the benefit that Ghana deserves from its gold. That is what I'm saying. Doc, thank you very much for your time. Really, really grateful for all the insights you've shared with us this morning. Really grateful.
Thank you for having me, sir.
All right, that was Dr. Felix Larry. He's an economist, and he joined me this morning for a roundtable discussion. And today we looked at the GoldBod, try to evaluate its performance so far, and what we need to do as a country to make sure that we get all the benefits from that particular sector and that particular institution. All right, that's all time will allow us this morning. Thank you very much for listening. My name is Nicho Ebi Hammond. We're back again tomorrow for more interesting conversations. Until we meet again, please, when you think Ghana, think Z, and see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.